as I'm sure everybody knows, there's been some discussion about potential issues we might have had this week with respect to potential allegations of sunshine law issues and things of that nature. I would ask that we, since all of these issues revolve in some way around the sewer plant, that we move the discussions that would pertain to the sewer plant to the front of the meeting so that I can go ahead to address the sunshine law stuff right off the top. So we would need, in order to do that, we'd need a motion to suspend the rules so that we can reorder the agenda.
Yeah, I'll make that motion and we suspend the rules till I do that reorganization.
Do we have a second? Okay. So we're gonna move the dump truck. Oh yeah, we need to vote on that, sorry. My apologies.
All in favor, can we do it that way, or do we have to, all in favor say yes?
Yes.
Anybody opposed, say no. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll move E and F to the beginning. So, I got word earlier this week that there might have been a meeting set up by Alderman Mock with other aldermen and the former sewer plant director, Mr. Fred Arnold. And because I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any issues, I called Alderman Mock when we spoke, and we agreed that it would probably be a good idea not to do that because, meeting about an issue that will 100% come before the board, I think would be a sunshine law violation, and I didn't want that to occur. Or I wanted to at least avoid that if at all possible. I've handed out a letter to everybody that explains the way the sunshine law functions. The goal of the sunshine law, and it's in the letter there, is to ensure that there's no secret meetings, that the public can trust that all of the public's business is being carried out, in public in front of everyone, with public notice being given so that everybody is assured there's no backroom deals or, smoke-filled rooms in the back where people are making policy. So the meeting didn't happen, and I talked to a number of other aldermen who had been contacted about it.
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
There was a meeting?
No, there was no meeting.
There was going to be a meeting?
Well, that was my understanding. So.
I wasn't invited.
Well, it wasn't an official meeting, and that's why we determined that it would be best to not do that. So, the sunshine law, it's more than just meetings, though. It's also phone calls and text messages. It's emails. Reply all to an email could be considered a sunshine law violation. A lot of these things likely would be very minor. And the cure for a sunshine law violation is to take whatever was said in a private setting and then say it again in a public setting. Now, since we didn't have the meeting, there's no need to do that aspect of it. But it's my understanding that Alderman Mockey made some papers. Is that correct?
No, let me explain what happened. Because the town is going to be confronted with a major decision about the sewer plant, I have been trying to gather as much information and become as knowledgeable as possible about the operations of the sewer plant, the cost of what repairs might happen. I have talked to Gary Lawson, Fred Arnold, Jim Hurd, Steve Epperson, MTAS, TDEC, and the boys at the sewer plant. I asked Fred Arnold if he would be willing to come to a meeting. I did not know that people were not going to be allowed into the meeting, did not know that the engineer was going to be there that night and give us information. I don't have the knowledge that I feel like I need to have, nor do I think the rest of these people on the board do. I have been trying my best to become knowledgeable about the sewer board. There are people here who have not demonstrated that they want or are trying to find out like I am. I asked Fred if he would be willing to meet me after work to talk to me. I called a few people that I thought might want to know what he has to say about how the thing works. These people, and I called the MTS lawyer. She said I was not guilty, that as long as it is fact-finding, as long as there is no deliberation. I told the lady there would be no deliberation. Everything comes down to the dollar. We will make our decision for this town the best that we can according to what it will cost us. I personally want to be able to understand what I'm looking at. I want to have an educated opinion the best that I can before I have to vote on something that's going to cost this town.
Well, and I think that that's an important point, that deliberation and discussion is the key issue.
There was not
Right.
going to be, because nobody knows the dollar amounts, John, you know that.
No, I understand.
I'm just saying,
But
this is just uncalled for.
Any kind
Uncalled
of discussion that could be interpreted as deliberation, even if it's not intended that way, could get the town
Yeah.
in trouble.
Yeah.
And the problem, and it's in the letter that I provided to you, is that, these sunshine law violations, like I said, some are very minor, but the repercussions can be very serious.
According to how people want to misconstrue what you're trying to do.
Well,
yes.
I understand.
And the deliberations, just like I understood what that lawyer was trying to tell me. She said that these meetings could create problems if we started talking among ourselves and trying to make a decision.
Right.
No decision's going to be made till we know the dollar amount.
Right. Well,
The engineer, let me add something here. We had a BMA planning meeting the month before he came, and I said in the meeting that the engineer was going to be here. Mike had gotten in touch with him, and because she was going to bring it up that meeting, and I said we had so much on us, we would plan that, not this past meeting, but the meeting before. And well, the engineer was supposed to come and explain to us what was going on. And
Let me interrupt a minute, Pat. I did not understand that engineer was going to show up. I thought eventually we would have papers or a report from the engineering firm. These papers that the man gave us, did you read them and did you understand some of the terminology?
I understood what he was saying, that we need to work on this there.
okay, well,
No,
before we get too
I
far in
got
the
it. We
before we get too far in the weeds, that the most grave consequence of a sunshine law violation could be that the action that you take at the board level, that somebody sees, if you have an allegation of sunshine law violation. For instance, if the town made a major vote about sewer, and then the town was accused of having a open meetings law, which is the technical term, violation, the vote could be nullified. And the town could end up, putting itself in a very precarious position, especially given, the magnitude of some of the decisions that the governing body makes. Now, I understand that, and we talked about this, and I said, even if there's no nefarious intent, you're not trying to get together and scheme, that any stray comment that somebody hears could be determined to be a violation. And I'm not trying to point any fingers. I was provided with some papers that Alderman Mock made. And do you know these?
That is what,
Okay.
that is what,
And it's my understanding that, and I'll get through it and then we can address it. It's my understanding that members of the board got these papers. Is that correct?
no, I gave it to them. I have papers to bring tonight for
Right.
Pat and Jim and Mindy.
Okay.
I did not bring them in because I don't feel like they want to know.
Well, since they were given outside of a public setting,
Yes, I do too.
we need to go through them, because the questions that I read here, I spoke to MTS as well, could be interpreted to be deliberation. So,
Well, that wasn't from me, that was what, Fred put on there. We didn't even discuss that.
Right.
He drew on the back of mine the plant layout. I want to know how the thing works. I want to know when they
No
say.
matter what they discuss, what you discussed with Fred.
It's,
Well, I mean, I didn't even read through
but
it.
if,
I don't-
but if
Well,
these
well,
papers were distributed to other board members, we have to go through them. We have to.
But they was discussed with nobody but a citizen of the town and an alderman.
But the papers were given, the papers were distributed from an alderman to another alderman. And so we have to go through them. I know that it's not,
I got one, but I ain't
Yeah.
looked at it.
I didn't look at it either. I was sitting there and I didn't look at it.
well,
John, you know what my position is on this? Somebody's just trying to stir the pot up. If it was my suggestion, I'd take this piece of paper right here, wad it up, throw it in the damn garbage can.
well, the courts,
That's what it amounts to.
the problem is the court's not gonna wad the law up and throw it away, Alderman. And I can't help that.
understand that, but that'd be hard to prove. You know
It
that.
wouldn't be hard to prove. People were given the papers.
There's physical evidence of it right
There's
there.
physical, there's copies of it.
Okay, go ahead and go over it so we'll know what's on.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's not my document, so whoever, if y'all want to talk about
Where'd
it,
the document come from?
just run down the list for us. It appears to be, because I'm not the one that discussed it or distributed it, so it's not, I can't cure the violation.
Where'd the paper come from?
From Fred Arnold. He wrote out those things. He said that people need to know this information, but we didn't talk about it. I didn't even read it.
And I don't see anything wrong with that. He's
Who gave it
not on
out?
the board or
I
nothing.
did, Pat. I told you I had your copy and his and hers in the car. It was, the idea for Fred to be there was to draw out the lines that he did. I didn't ask for all that stuff he put on there, but he says the people on the board need to know that stuff. I don't know what, like I said, I didn't read it. All I wanted to know was what he could tell me about the sewer lines and the pumps.
Well,
He
did
drew on
any,
the-
I guess, did anybody read it?
I haven't got it.
Okay.
Did you read it?
They didn't get one
Make
there.
it a public thing and they should solve it.
I just,
Well, yeah, I mean, we've got a diagram here of the sewer system, right? And there's 25 questions on the side. How much sludge in the plant? How many tons of sludge was hauled out in 2020? Why do you not have a dump truck? And in parentheses, unheard of. Why has the design of the plant been changed? How many, it looks like it says blows. Does it take,
Blowers, I guess it's blowers.
does it take to run plant? Are digesters full? How often does belt press run? Have you viewed logbook at plant? Why was the primaries not put back on line way designed? Why was secondary clarify not been put back online? What projects have been completed in the last 4 years? How many grants have we received? Why did we switch residential pumps? Who is salesman? And there's an asterisk, and then in parentheses it says uncle. What is head pressure on new pumps? And then there's a dash and it says 50. Can you provide curve on new pumps? Or I think it says curve. Do you know why F1 were chosen? And then in parentheses, or in quotes, and in all caps and underline, it says by the board for emphasis. How many pumps do you order at a time? What cost on that? Do you realize we have MTAS plus TAUD to do what you paid $25,000 to $30,000 for? They have no financial interest. Do you realize before you came here, $2.75 million was received in grants? Yours is zero. Is city meeting state regulations on sludge? Do you understand what it takes to remove sludge from plant? Do you realize sewer plant has to have dump truck? Was residential pump change botted out? So then we've got another map here, diagram I guess of the plant, and then the last document that I was told was distributed was a text message. It was a screenshot from a text message from former city administrator Gary Lawson, where he says, we annexed 5,000 feet from 11W to the river. Mount Carmel was supposed to be deeded 9 acres by Congress, but we never received a deed. Joe May was working on it when Frost fired him. So, just so everybody knows, that's the information the board was given.
let me ask you this. the map you got there,
Yes.
the guy, I don't know him personally, I've never met him. He used to work at the sewer plant, he knows where every line in there. I guess Teresa will probably tell me more about what he knows than I can, because I've never met him. But I don't see anything that is hurting anything. Matter of fact, I think it's good information.
It's not whether it's good information or not. It probably is good information. It's the fact that it was given out to board members by board member, whether it was created by that board member or not, outside of a public meeting, and it touches very deeply upon a matter of public concern that the board will make large votes on in the future. That's the point. And
Now, I was up there the day that the inspector came up there. I did go up there when you say I wasn't interested.
No, I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
so
'cause I know
I
it
just-
was when I was up there.
I just wanted to get that cleared up right now, and I was trying,
let me say this, John. I was trying to share the information so I couldn't be accused of doing something in secret.
no, I understand. I
But
understand.
I want everybody here because I've been accused wrongly, and I'm just really distraught about it.
Right. No, I understand where your motives were, and that's not mine. You know,
I know.
I just want to make
I
sure that we
I've been accused of stuff too, so just let it go back.
that we air these things out so that we don't potentially, and to impress the importance of it on everybody. Because, you know, the board can't call each other and talk about votes. They can't discuss how votes are going to happen. That's all a violation. And it could be very serious. And honestly, the town has been, for several years now, trying to help its reputation, right? And nothing is going to damage that reputation worse than if the public can't have faith in the actions of the board. From an integrity of the decision-making standpoint, that they know everything that's going into the decisions.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
Right.
do.
And
I've given, wait a minute. I want you all to see this cost me over $200 to make for these people. Over $200 out of my pocket. I gave Gary Traylor one because he wanted to be an alderman. I gave Jim Bear to be one. This is going to be the most major thing that happens to this town since we voted in the sewer to begin with. My intentions are nothing but honest and sincere and trying to gather all of the information I can to make an educated guess as to what we need to do. None of us know the future. We plan the best we can by being educated. That's all I'm guilty of doing.
And, you know,
But you
and
know,
maybe
that's
it'll...
Trying to provide these people with the information.
Right, and maybe it requires the board to hold additional meetings. You know,
I really think we need to do
I'll
a
pass
sewer
this one.
workshop.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a good
Other than
idea.
which I know our last workshop was consumed by the sewer,
Right,
and which should have been preparing us for what's here tonight.
right.
I
There's
think
too
maybe we
much,
might
there's
need to
too
do
much
one
on
or
this
two.
tonight.
Yeah.
For one meeting, there's too much on
We're gonna
this.
have to.
Well, it's on the agenda, so we got to get through it.
Yeah.
So, but I agree that that's a great idea. And then that's a forum where we can announce it, the public knows about it, and everybody can sit down and discuss all these matters, you know,
That's why we.
Fully.
That's why that we, called the engineer, because he knows more about it than the rest of us here.
While
But-
we're on sunshine law, I got a question. At our last board meeting, the engineer was going over all the sewer stuff. He wanted a leadway whether to know to contact Kingsport. We actually took a vote at a workshop.
no vote was taken. He wanted to see,
Asked each individual how they felt, whether they wanted to pursue. Now, how is that not violating the sunshine law?
We didn't take a
Didn't
vote
take it
at
up.
no vote was taken. He
But
wanted
he
to,
asked each individual pretty much how.
No, he
No,
ga-
he did not ask each
What do
individual.
I need to do?
He gauged
I need
interest.
the leadway to know whether to pursue this.
He did not say, Stephen McLean, what do you think? Pat Stillwell, what do you think? Minnie Fleshar, what do you
No,
think? He
did
asked
not
for a
call names.
general.
I'm just asking, I mean, I'm not fussing about this.
no, I just don't, he wanted to gauge the temperature of the board before he took action. The board
That's
didn't
gonna
tell
take
him,
money.
the board didn't tell him to do something, but the way I understood it
quote unquote, he said, I need to get the lead to be able to, whether y'all want to pursue this.
And he
Is
took
what he said.
he took the temperature of the conversation and determined that it was a good idea. That's the way I
We
understood
also
it.
talked
I'm
about
not
her too.
arguing about it, just wondering how that, is that a vote, is it not, or?
It's not a
It's not a vote, and what transpired, and I think it was, you were one of the ones that made the really good point that led him to confirm that, yeah, we do need to be looking at regionalization. We need to, there's an interest level at the board to go farther down that road and engage those discussions. And I think a lot of it was based on not on your questions that you threw back at Mr. Hellstrom, such as do we know what this will cost? I think that we need to take a closer look at this and determine the cost of a regionalization with a neighboring community. And I think based on those conversations, he was able to determine that, yeah, there is sufficient interest on the board to go ahead and look in that direction.
So in hillbilly terms, it's his way of finding out
what.
direction he needs to go.
Yeah, and it was also, at a public meeting. I mean, the workshop was public. We published we hold on to the recording of it until,
Right.
yeah.
A little sketchy there, but I just wanted to clarify that.
I understand.
Okay,
So
move on.
now that we've gotten that out of the way, we need to talk about E and F, purchase of dump truck, and then F is pricing for micro bar screens. So whoever placed those matters on the agenda can address them.
There is an issue about the dump truck. With the wastewater treatment plant, there are two byproducts. The water that goes back into the river, I call it water. It's effluent or something like that. I'm really not even sure how you pronounce the word. The other is the sludge. The sludge is either sent to the landfill, or if you're lucky and you get a farmland, you can actually make a deal with them and take it there and dump it.
So hold it a minute. Where do we take it?
We take it to Cards Valley landfill.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
We're working on a farm. We have castles. We have not farms. That means we can save a lot of money to proceed our solids. But we've been working on that for a year. I got my info with it, and we're just waiting for the woman to okay it. So but most likely where I'm at right now, I have to tell her how many gallons, how many tons, just give her information on how we do it. Because they have to know, because some people might be like, it's 6 tons. Take it to the take it to the farm. You have to keep records. So that's what we're working with right now, and hopefully here soon we'll get a thumbs up on it. So we've been working on it for a good year now. So
Well, I thought you told me that before.
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I thought, well, I better ask them.
yes, ma'am, I did.
Because I've been up there several times
Yeah.
asking you questions too.
They have not been able to have the truck.
I've been, Jason, he's been working with me great, the department head over at Pope Works. He has to have his equipment, so he works around with, I work around with his schedule and stuff. We got the dump truck back, we're moving sludge out, taking it to Cards Valley landfill, so we don't have to, have any issues with violations or anything. We do not have any violations. We're just keep doing what we can.
You did get those violations taken care of, and I appreciate them.
Oh, yeah, that's, communication issues, we got taken care of. But yeah, the chemical feed pump, we got that fixed with our flow meter, the 420 milliamps. Long story short, it's fixed. So that was
But now
one of the
Jason is
violations.
still letting you use the truck
Yes,
right
ma'am.
now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that truck is still in good enough condition until we pass the next budget, right?
Well, what-
I've got cross contamination, that's raw sewage in that truck there, going back to the public, apartment there. Y'all clean it when you get done with it?
Yeah, we mostly put in drum beds and hose down the sludge in the drum bed so it can be contained. But we mostly just clean it before we take it to, Jason's guys. We don't want, yeah.
So
But
you,
it's-
you sanitize that really well before you would take it back over there.
we hose it down and all that stuff, but we don't take it back with, sludge on it, because that's disrespectful and,
Cause I think I asked that to the inspector that was up there that day, the state
yeah, Bree,
inspector.
yeah, Miss Bree, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we
What's the
know
verdict
where-
on the truck? What's the verdict on the truck?
They're working on it.
Do we
Been
know
doing
what
They're
that
the
for 2
doing
years.
the, they're doing the transmission again.
No. No.
That's what he told us.
Who, Steve? Steve can't get the man to answer him to tell him where the truck's at. Did you know, Mike?
Yes, I did.
Do we know where the truck's at?
Yes, the transmission shop in Baileyton.
The last time I talked to Steve, he said the man would not confirm where the truck was at.
Well, the attorney is becoming involved in this. My recommendation after discussions with Steve and Mr. Peavy is that we put this in Mr. Peavy's hands.
See, we.
I'm gonna at
had
least,
a
I'm gonna start with
discussion on
sending a
this
demand
before.
letter, for return of the truck and give them a sunset date.
Is this truck disassembled, is it whole, is it,
I have no idea.
do you have an address where this truck's at?
Steve does. Steven does.
Yeah.
Would I be in violation if I go see if that truck's at that address in any way?
No.
It's to me, clearly, it looks like we have anything to vote on here for E&F. I'd like to make the motion that we table this.
Yes.
Well, do we want to get to the micro bar screens? I don't know if there's something to vote on there or not.
Okay. Sorry, we're just doing with the even discussion for the dump truck, and I'd like to make the motion that we table that discussion for future workshop and meeting.
Not a second.
We need to vote. Vote to table.
Yes.
So you have to ask.
Oh, all in favor, can we go in all in favor? We have, all in favor of, tabling this, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, say no.
No.
So then, pricing for the micro bar screens. That's the other item that we moved up.
Because we do not have the screening that is recommended to us by MTS, our sewer is full of trash, absolutely full of trash, which causes just problems to the rest of the equipment. Our, trying to find a good picture of it.
Is that where all the cigarettes and
Nasty,
everything,
nasty.
all that trash, needles and everything else?
It's not supposed, oh, here's one.
Not needles, but the things that you smoke cigarettes
It
or
isn't
whatever.
supposed to be there. This has been neglected, it needs to be corrected.
And
With
now,
MTS,
what
we
that
have
gonna
had
cost?
microfilter, screening, microbar screen. We have these things that are big, gawky things that have huge holes in them. The men literally have to take a rake and put it into a bucket. It still filters on through there.
Have they ever had screens on?
Yes, a long time ago.
So they just wore out?
And I don't know why they were removed and replaced with something that's inferior, I have no idea.
The screens they have now is, like she's showing the picture, they're, pretty wide. They can catch some rags, toys, any kind of organic, but not all of it. So therefore, it comes in our plant, mop head rags, we're getting our pumps, so we have to pull it. And sometimes it can damage our pumps due to, jamming it, messing up the windings in the pump. It can cause seals.
So these
leaks.
things that's been put in the, say, the commode or the whatever,
Well,
and it's
most,
flushed down?
yeah,
It could be
people
your
flush.
sink too, right?
Yeah, see, some houses has grinder pumps, so therefore the issue's at their place. But the rest of the town, whether they flush, wipes, face wipes, whatever, says flushable on them. But there again, if it says flushable, I'm gonna flush it, you know, if I don't have, know. But, people don't know that you don't tell them, you know, so, but to the story, yes, if someone flush it, it goes to our lift stations, our mud pumps, they ain't no grinders, so it don't get hung, it sends it to our plant.
So they get hung in the,
Grinder pumps.
Grinder.
Yeah, residential pumps.
and
yeah.
that stops it up then? It
Yes,
causes the
ma'am.
pump to go
That's
bad.
why you see a lot flashing,
Mhm.
a rag issue. Not all the time, but it's a high percentage of calls.
And a lot of this is, just.
Baby wipes, face wipes, and makeup wipes.
Everything else wipes.
Yeah, it's just what is the teeth on the pump, on the grinder, can't chew it up because it's so,
Then,
yeah, it's so tough. Now,
Now,
toilet
do these
paper,
screens go, where do these screens go, in every pump?
no, that's for the plant
Just the
itself.
big one then?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the head works where it comes into the head of the plant.
Who person got rid of, you know?
We never had fine screens.
Never had them at all, that thing, even when the thing was new, never had them.
I haven't, it's, they used to have a, they have a, I forgot the name, but what it does, it will chew up rags and stuff.
Yeah.
Then it'll be small particles going down, so it'll chew up bigger rags, but still you'll
Now, I
have the
understand
burger.
that. I didn't know if the plant was designed with them or not, is what I'm asking. Was that plant, when it did, was it designed to have them or not?
The reason why Mario's Bond Mountain engineer, me and him went over a lot of stuff. And, the reason why it came up, and he thought we had more options to look at except the bar screens. He asked me personally, what do you think would be best? He said, I have some other thoughts also. The reason why it came to my mind, me and Mike and Robert, before Robert retired, we went down to Rogeville. They installed these screens, and they improved a lot good for their plant. Well, last year they got both screens working, and it's doing good for that plant, so that's why me and Mike and Robert went down there and checked it out. So, you know, I got information from Mike and say, hey, what's your thoughts? And then the engineers will give us thoughts too of what's more out there, so. So yeah, the screens will be a good option, but therefore we don't know until we make a decision, and that's whenever engineers.
Do you have contacts to get a price on?
Well, if I can jump in here.
Yeah.
We're working with Von Mountain, we're working with T-Deck. I was on the phone with T-Deck today. Latest that we've been discussing the notice of violations. T-Deck is waiting for us to put a corrective action plan in front of them. They are interested in us regionalizing. While what Vice Mayor Malka and this all discussion is about with the screens at the head of the plant, we do believe, I think that we're probably looking at $150,000.
Yes, sir.
$150,000 to put this in place. That's just for the hardware. Now, T-Deck is not demanding us remedy this immediately. What they're wanting us to do is work with the engineers, work with the neighboring cities, decide whether or not we're going to be going the path of regionalization and joining with a neighboring community. And if we're going to start down the road of a neighboring community, then their position on these violations in regards to our wastewater treatment facility is going to change. So it's all a part of a discussion to decide tonight that we're going to make a $150,000 purchase on a piece of equipment for the sewer plant is premature when we don't know what we're going to do with our sewer department.
I mean, you pretty much answered the question that I had about it. We're looking at about 150,000.
Yeah.
Uninstalled.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's just for the screens then?
right, that's,
Okay.
Thank
Thank you for clarifying that, Steve.
Right.
Thank you for clarifying that.
a question but I've been asked a lot of the public, I'm just gonna throw this out there, I'm not creating an argument, I'm not, just give you something to think about. If the town of Mount Carmel was to agree with Kingsport to take our sewer, in whatever form, way, whatever, 10 years from now, Kingsport decides it don't want it, Mount Carmel is $30 to $40 million in the hole to put a sewer plant back in business. Would that be correct? I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it's not.
I mean, wouldn't there be an agreement of some sort?
Yeah, there would have to be an agreement, and I mean, you know, what will happen is, in one case, where they take over our collection system, then all of that infrastructure they own. You know, we'd have to get into the legal of it, but I don't imagine that they could just abandon a major service like that, whether it's in our city or theirs.
But I mean, if you go under contract with them for 50 years, which I ain't gonna be here in 50 years more than likely.
Yeah. Well,
I know, yeah,
And something, you know, things change.
yeah.
And if they set it up as a 5-year notice that we're not going to handle this, you know, they give a 5-year notice, well, still.
Well, I guess you'd have to make the
I mean,
notice
we're
longer.
gonna have to put the sewer plant, well, we ain't,
Yeah.
they are, somebody is.
But I mean,
We're gonna
I
have to
guess,
put the sewer plant back up and running.
I guess ultimately, we really don't know what those contracts would look like yet. So it's hard to speak on it since we don't have any idea what the terms will be.
But I just wanna put that out there and let everybody.
And since we don't have these terms right now, since we don't have what these numbers looks like, and since it's not like we don't wanna start putting $150,000 in a plan we don't know what we're gonna do with yet, I wanna make a motion that we go ahead and table that for a workshop as well, because sewer's gonna need a lot of hours of workshop, a lot of decisions, a lot of discussion. So before this thing's very premature to do it right today, that kind of money. So I'd like to make a motion that we gotta table that as well.
I'll second that.
We vote on that motion. Mayor?
We have a vote, please. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those who don't want it postponed, say no. Okay, it's passed.